just because the market looks a certain way when you start doesn't mean it's going to look that way when you finish.
Welcome to The Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. Each week we investigate themes of leadership, entrepreneurship, and mindset with some of the greatest minds in real estate. And now, the data scientist of real estate, George Roberts.
All right, welcome back, investors. Today, I have Seth Williams, a real estate investor and founder of 𝐅𝐸_tipster.com, an online community that offers real-world guidance for real estate investors. Seth is an investor who has experience in land, self-storage, and we're also going to get a little bit into his online content creation, because I know that's something that's very top of mind for a lot of real estate investors. We have to get out there and make sure that that our message gets out. But with that, I think it's time to welcome our guest, Seth, to the show. Welcome, Seth.
Hey, George. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, well, great to have you. And I think I'd like to start with land. I know that's what you're best known for. I know that a lot of real estate investors, they're all about the cash flow. They want to do, long-term buy and hold stuff. But land, there's a lot of ways that you can make it work. So why don't you tell us, how you've made it work as an investor?
Sure. Yeah, well, that was kind of one of my big misconceptions when I first heard about the vacant land flipping opportunity. Was I didn't understand why anybody would buy land at all. Like, where's the cash flow? There's no like rent you're making from this, right? So what's the point? And what I was misunderstanding was the whole core strategy of buying land for a very, very cheap discounted price and basically doing nothing to it because you got it for such a cheap price. And because you got it for so cheap, basically means that on the closing day when you bought the thing, you just manifested a bunch of free equity because it's already worth more than you paid for it. And you can list it for sale and sell it at market value or even a discount of market value and still make some pretty good money on it. And that's like a typical classical land flip where you just buy for cash, do nothing, and then sell for cash. That's probably like the cleanest, easiest way to understand it. But there's all kinds of variations on this. I mean, you could buy it for a higher price and then make some improvements to it, or maybe subdivide it, or give it entitlements, or change the zoning and make the value go up and then sell it for more. Or you could sell it with owner financing. So you basically buy it free and clear, sell it for more, but you accept it, sell it on payments. So you basically do create cash flow for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, however long you want to set it up. That's what a lot of land flippers will do. Actually, seller financing is very, very useful in the land business because a lot of times banks don't want to finance vacant land if there's not an immediate plan to improve it. And because of that difficulty in finding bank financing for a lot of land deals, the land flipper can make it a lot easier for their buyers by offering seller financing. And in turn, they create cash flow for themselves. So there's that kind of thing. Or you could even do a buy and hold vacant land deal, but find ways to make it create long-term cash flow, like using it for parking, or like developing it into a storage facility like I did not long ago, or putting like a billboard on it, or a solar farm, or cell phone towers. There's all kinds of different ways to generate passive income from land in a way that doesn't really require any ongoing maintenance or work from you. You're just the owner and somebody else does the work and you collect cash flow from it. So there you go.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, hunting rights, rented to a tenant farmer, all kinds of things. Pretty amazing. But even as you mentioned, even if you stay the more typical route and all you're doing is, for example, subdividing it, entitling it, etc., that note, there you go. That could be your cash flow. Good stuff. Great stuff. Well, I mentioned development there, and I think that's a very interesting topic. So it's self-storage that you were developing, but development in general, it's something that we don't really have enough of right now. We have a huge housing shortage.
Yeah.
We also have a shortage of storage space because I've observed they just have a lot of stuff, Seth.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's that's one of the interesting things I went through over the past couple of years. I just built my first storage facility, and It's really interesting. The only reason I chose to build a storage facility instead of buying an existing one was because I couldn't find any good deals on existing ones. And the market was so hot back in 2021 when I decided to start building this thing that it's kind of thing where like the environment was such that I could build it. And even if I didn't want to end up holding it long term, I could sell it for more than I paid to build the thing, even if it was empty, which is, I think, kind of unusual in the self-storage business, at least as far as what I've seen. But in that process, I've kind of learned a lot about the risks of development in general, because when it was like mid 2021, when I decided to build this thing, the market looked a certain way. We had a feasibility study done, and that feasibility study told us that if this storage facility existed today, it would likely fill up and break even within 6 to 9 months, which is very fast. So based on that information, we decided to move forward, but it took us 2 years to finish this thing. And by the time we finished building it, the market had changed quite a bit. And now it's a lot slower than it was, and it's filling up a lot slower. It's probably going to take like 2 to 3 years to reach full occupancy, which is actually pretty normal. That's usually how it works. But a big lesson from that was just that just because the market looks a certain way when you start doesn't mean it's going to look that way when you finish. And so you got to take that into account and make sure, like, does this thing still cash flow, even if it doesn't go as fast and as good as I was hoping it would? And luckily, it's fine for us. We had plenty of margin built into our deal, but I can see how a lot of people could get stuck on the wrong side of that when they finish, and all of a sudden the demand for what they built just isn't there anymore. So
Yeah, huge margin of safety and the ability to pivot. I mean, that's what I'm hearing in that deal. And a lot of investors, they don't do that. They look at a deal one way, and if it works out, they get the returns and the investors are happy. And if it doesn't, big trouble.
yeah.
So are you planning any further development projects at this time?
Well, in that particular site, there's going to be 2 phases most likely. The first phase that we did, half of it is storage buildings, and the other half is just a gravel parking lot for like RVs and boats and that kind of thing. But using land for that, just a gravel parking lot, it's not the best use of land in terms of being able to make the most money from it. We kind of just did it because it was my first storage facility I ever built, and I didn't want to go $5 million into debt on something where I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, let's kind of do a smaller chunk first. We'll get that stabilized, and then we'll do phase 2. So there will probably be a phase 2, maybe, I don't know, a couple of years from now, once this thing is stabilized on the first half of it. But for now, it's just half parking and half storage buildings. And it's kind of interesting. The storage buildings, when they fill up, tenants tend to stay longer because, you know, when you buy a 10 by 20 foot storage unit and fill it up with all your stuff, it's just harder to get that stuff out and move on. Whereas if it's like RV or something, you just drive that thing away. It's not hard at all. So people come and go really quickly from those parking spots, but storage units, people tend to stick around for a lot longer there.
Yeah, excellent point. There's a huge heterogeneity. I know, for example, boats. Seems like nobody ever wants to get rid of their boats. I see the same boats in the boatyard every year. And hey, that's a steady source of income. Like you mentioned, the personal stuff, that's another thing.
Yeah.
I just wondered what people would do. I mean, if they just, hey, let me sell all this and I could buy it back in the future if I needed to.
Yeah.
But something about human psychology just won't let people do that. I know Tim Ferriss, very famously, author of the 4-Hour Workweek. That's what he did. So he could go out and travel. But it takes a certain psychology to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think some people can do it easier than others, and I don't know where I fall in that. I feel like I can let go of things fairly easier, but it probably depends on the thing and like what I think I'm going to be needing it for in the near future. So, my wife,
right.
Like,
It's wrapped up with your hopes and dreams.
Yeah. 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 I know. My wife is very good at getting rid of junk. It's like when we don't need something, like it's gone. Like I don't see us ever having a storage unit ever. Like it just doesn't work with her. But a lot of people think the opposite. I mean, they will keep stuff forever And those are the kind of people that we can make money from as storage owners.
Exactly. Well, you're serving a need.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think the most of what I have I can get away or give away pretty easily, but that grand piano,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's why I need a large house. It's not the
Hmm.
kids, it's the grand piano.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, well, very good. I think we'll probably merge from psychology back into real estate here.
Yeah.
And so self-storage is I mean it's just really huge. I like that you're in multiple things because whenever I see somebody who's doing just one thing, I mean, I wonder what happens when the market turns. Do you just get very conservative and not do deals, or do you pivot? And so it seems to me that you're somebody who is comfortable pivoting. You've got land, you've got self-storage, and you're also in new construction as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The new construction thing, I don't know. Like, honestly, in hindsight, like if I could have found a deal on an existing one, I totally would have rather done that. Like, I don't want to be a new construction guy. It was just a situation where it actually made sense. And so I did it. But like, if I get facility number 2 and 3 and 4, my plan A is to find an existing one at a good price. But if that isn't feasible, then we go to plan B, and building is a viable option.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, at a time like this, there's definitely be more people out there doing that. But
Yeah.
unless you want to dive deeper into that, I mean, there's a lot to it. You mentioned 2-year delay, market changed, and I think that's just the reality. There's
Yeah.
nothing strange, nothing strange about that story.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also stuff like, when we got our original cost estimates on like the steel for the buildings and stuff, like those costs were fluctuating around a little bit. So like that's kind of a moving target. Then you got interest rates. Luckily, we locked in like a month before interest rates started going up. So like mine's pretty good, but like it would be a lot harder to do the exact same project today just because interest is so much higher. So there's just a lot to look at, and lots of things can wiggle around in the middle of making these huge financial decisions. It's not like a static thing. It's a moving target to some extent.
Well, yeah, the cost estimation is without a doubt the hardest element. I mean, I know just from my own personal experience that, lately people have gone more into spec just because they can't count on what it's going to cost to build. So
Yeah.
you might as well just build it, finance it, and then at least at that point, you're in a position where it's yours,
Yeah.
and you're hoping that inflation keeps up. The price inflation of the finished product keeps up with the inflation
Yeah.
of the inputs. So yeah, very, very difficult situation. I know something I harp on probably too much is how people are just against developers in the society.
Yeah.
And sure, they make tons of money, but they're also the first to get soaked when the interest rates go up. The
Yeah.
banks call their loans. And then you find that you've got projects where phase 2 and 3 just never got started, or even worse, you just have a lot of mud out there
Yeah.
on the construction site. And that's very, very painful. Very few people want to step into those shoes. And that's
Mhm.
why we have such a crisis right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. There's a high penalty for failure, but a high upside for winning. So yeah, somebody's got to do that.
Yeah, I love it. Well, okay, let's get back to self-storage. Where do you see the market heading for self-storage?
Yeah. Well, I think part of what has slowed it down is the higher interest rates, which are causing people to not move as fast as they were previously. And the demand for storage has a lot to do with how much people are moving. So if people aren't moving, the demand for storage goes down. It doesn't disappear though. It's just kind of slower than otherwise would have been. So I think it kind of depends on interest rates to some extent. If those stay up there, I think at some point people will have to move one way or the other. So the market will find equilibrium again. But for the time being, it's kind of slowing things down. If interest rates were to go way down, it would probably, kick things up quite a bit. Something that we saw during the whole COVID crisis when interest rates were really low is the storage business was just booming. Like I don't think it ever has before, because not only were people moving like crazy, so demand was way up, but also interest rates were way down. So it was easy to build And there's also been a lot of software that's come into that space over the past 5 to 10 years that's made it a lot easier to manage these things. Like, for example, our storage facility, it's an unmanned facility. So like, and there's not even a kiosk. So to rent, you just take out your phone and scan a QR code. That's where you can sign the lease and, sign up for your payment and all this stuff. So it's just really easy to manage this stuff, and the payments come out automatically. Late notifications go out automatically. You can communicate with tenants by text or email. This was stuff that was just a lot more cumbersome to do 10 plus years ago when the software didn't exist, or the software that was out there just wasn't that good. So all these things have kind of made the storage business go nuts over the past few years. And yeah, I think in terms of where the future is going, it probably depends to some extent on where interest rates go. And if they go down, we'll probably see a lot more development coming into the scene. If they stay high, then developers will probably be more gun shy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge. And I love the way that you say if, because although we all expect them to go down, people are talking about when. We don't know. And it's the intelligent investor who's willing to hedge a little bit and consider that, say, even if the likelihood is 4 out of 5 that we see lower rates this summer, I don't really want to stake my future on something that could really blow up 20% of the time. Not good.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
There's also that question of like,
well,
I'm sorry. Also the question of just like why do we think they're going to go down? Just because they were low a couple of years ago? I mean, what were they?
Because we need them to.
Well, like what is
because
normal?
We want them to. That's why, Seth. That's what investors are doing. We want and we need that things are a certain way, so they have to. Yes, we're used to this. Yeah, and that's bad. We have to remember that the market doesn't respond to our wants and needs. We need to see the market as it is, not as we wish it to be.
Yeah. Well said.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I do definitely want to ask you about content creation because, again, I know it's something that's hugely on people's minds. I've got this podcast. I've got a weekly Zoom conference. People can join on Wednesdays at noon, doing all kinds of things in terms of content creation. But there's always the question of how do you bring it on home? How do you close that loop and make sure that you're actually making a return on investment? So how do you choose what is the best type of media to pursue?
Yeah. Well, I think the best kind of depends on you and like what you're good at and what you enjoy. Like if there's something where you just find you're particularly astute at conveying a message, like me, for example, I started with just a blog. That's all 𝐷𝐸 ever was. And then a couple years into it, I started making YouTube videos just because it was a really helpful way to explain things that were harder to explain just in the written format. And then several years later, I started a podcast because I know there's some people who will listen to podcasts all day long, but they'll never sit down in front of a computer to like read something or watch a video. So I think the more of those things you can do, the more people you'll be able to speak to, people who will, maybe only be able to hear you through one specific medium and nothing else. But at the same time, when I look at the type of content that I think I enjoy the most, it's probably video. I actually have a hard time shooting videos, but I really enjoy the end product when I finally have it done. And just like creating that thing, it's almost like a piece of artwork to me.
Yeah.
So you got to think about that too. Like if it feels like pulling teeth to do it, that's going to be hard to make that sustainable. But if it's something you genuinely enjoy, or at least can tolerate, that's going to help a lot. You also got to think about like, who is your audience and like, where are they? And what are you trying to get them to do? Like, are you trying to get deals from them or partner with them or just like sell random stuff to them for whatever reason? Yeah. So it just kind of depends on what your goals are and why you're doing it in the first place.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that you take the dispositional angle too. If you don't like something, it's really hard to be good at it. It's really hard to sustain. And having fun, having some passion, I think that really, really helps. So I want to do something fun. This is going to be totally spontaneous.
Yeah, cool.
Let me show you what I'm doing to make my videos on YouTube fun. Okay, so here, return at about 500 nanoseconds here. All right, here we go. So this is sort of my persona here. This is the data scientist of real estate. Let's see if we can I get that far enough away? No, because not because the way I have my studio set up.
There we
It's
go.
hard
Now
to-
I see it.
So yeah, I had that made up, and hey, the artwork might have cost me $50,
Mhm.
sign 100, but hey, it keeps it fun. I got my big head out here, so ever have any questions, need somebody else to bounce some ideas off.
Yeah.
There he is.
Is that like a
And
banner that
when I
sits
do
in the
my
background
show
of
on
you?
Wednesdays, you see, I like neon signs. So I
Yeah.
got the Foundry neon sign
That's
here.
really cool. I like that.
And if you can actually read that, there you go.
Yeah.
CRE Network, where deals are made. And this is what I like to put up during the Wednesday call. But I think, you definitely do have to find a way to make it fun and interesting. And if you do, I think that enthusiasm really shows.
Yeah, totally. So that stuff like sits in the background of your videos? Is that what you were saying that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The first thing that I put up, if hopefully you're watching this on YouTube, hey, everybody, this show is at least 23% more entertaining if you watch it on YouTube. So yeah, that first background, the data scientist of real estate, that's what I do put up for those videos. I also have a cartoon somebody put together for me, which
Nice.
was really exciting.
Yeah.
And yeah, you head out to my YouTube, data scientist of real estate, you can see the 58-second story of my life.
Cool. I'll have to
Yeah.
check that out. I want to see that.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, well, so then let's just really close the loop here. Let's talk about that return on investment. And I think I'll just go first to keep it
Sure.
simple. For me, the podcast, not entirely sure how well I've monetized it. I mean, there are a lot of people who come out and say, hey, I saw you on such and such interview, either, me as the interviewer or me as the guest. Definitely, I think podcasts have a great deal of value. But if we're going to be honest about it, Seth, it's really about making great connections with people like you. Because meeting you and having an opportunity to speak to you for, say, 45 minutes means that we are going to have a quality connection, the sort of quality that if I have a question, I know a couple people who are building self-storage, but now you're one of those people on my list.
Yeah.
If I'm involved in a deal or I know somebody who is, then I know who to send them to. And I can do that in a way you really can't do that. Like a Zoom call, you meet for a few minutes. I find the depth and the quality is just not the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, this podcast to me has really, more than anything, the value has been the depth and the quality of the connections that I've made.
Yeah, it is interesting. There's something about this that just like builds credibility in a way that's hard to do in any other way. Like if I just tell you I'm a cool guy, it's like all you have is my word right now. But if you can like see what I'm doing on the internet and see other people interacting with that and see like I've got a track record and like a library of content and I've helped lots of people, it just like it speaks volumes to see like this guy's actually doing really cool stuff. Almost like positions you as like a celebrity in a way, depending on who's paying attention to you. I mean, the average person probably wouldn't care about you, but anybody who's actually following you, they look up to you. So it kind of gives you a lot of authority and credibility in their minds.
It's huge. So yeah, just love to hear it. Well, hey, before we move on to that lightning round, I got a few questions that I want to ask you that I think are going to be really fun.
Yeah.
RE Tipster for a dozen years. So that's your blog. You kept that going and obviously doing other things too. But you also have the land investing courses. I know that your main one, I believe, is the land investing Masterclass.
Yeah.
So tell us, what are we going to learn if we come on out there?
Sure. Well, kind of what I was talking about earlier, the whole concept of buying land super cheap and then selling it without doing much to it in the meantime. That's really what that course teaches you how to do from A to Z. Like, how do you find the deals? How do you talk to people? How do you make the offers? How do you close? How do you get it resold? How do you know how much to offer? How do you value land? All this stuff. So it's all about anybody who wants to learn that kind of business. It shows you how to do that. And for me, it was probably one of the biggest discoveries I ever made as an entrepreneur, because I didn't have a whole lot of money when I was getting started. I had like $3,000, and it enabled me to start with a pretty small upfront investment and, buying these deals free and clear with no loans involved. And you just understanding where and how to find these motivated sellers is a huge advantage. I mean, it's it's worth a lot to understand how to use the data and find this kind of free equity all over the place. So it's all about how that works.
Yeah, huge. And then if we come out there and take the course, you take us through the math, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to build our own spreadsheet for the underwriting, or do you have a spreadsheet that you're using?
Yep. Yeah, I've got a few spreadsheets for that. Yeah, some of the tricky things about land is, first of all, understanding what it's worth, because even a lot of appraisers don't even understand how to do that very well, because a lot of times the data you need to come up with a solid valuation literally doesn't exist. So the best you can do is make a really educated guess. So it's all about how to find whatever data is there, and then whatever you can find, how do you make a logical estimation based on that? And then also like the due diligence side of things. So understanding, like, is this a desirable piece of land? Like, what can you do with it? And how likely is it to sell quickly? What would be like a plan B and a plan C if I can't do plan A with it? All these different things you want to generally understand, so that when you do own the thing, you own something that is going to be pretty easy to sell for a lot more than you paid for it.
All right, good stuff, good stuff. All right, well, I always like to switch it up with a couple of fun questions. So,
Sure.
Okay, SMART goals or stretch goals? Which do you believe in?
Can you explain those quickly, just so I understand exactly what you mean?
For those that are not familiar with the terms, so a SMART goal will be something that's specific, measurable, attainable. Oh gosh, what is the R? I think reasonable and time bound, something like that.
Mhm.
But so that's sort of the more methodical approach to goal setting. Whereas your stretch goal is something that you set, and even if you don't reach it, you've sort of, through the process of just setting it and striving for it, you've become, even if you don't reach the goal, you've become the sort of person that
Yeah.
could reach those sorts of goals.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like I default more to the SMART goals, but honestly, like, I don't know if that's proven to be the best way. I know a lot of people that do the stretch goal approach, and they do get farther than I did. So I don't know. Take that for what it's worth. It's probably good to understand both. Maybe go for the stretch goal, but have that SMART goal, you know, line somewhere, just so you know, and like, hey, I at least accomplished the minimum viable goal here. Now let's try to go further. Maybe some combination of the two.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, 100% for me too as well. I mean, I default more to the stretch goals because I feel that if you have, it's like we were talking about the content creation. If you have the passion, then you're just driven by a different part of your mind than you are when you feel like, darn, I got to go check the boxes. Like when I have paperwork for my apartments, like I do today, I am in a completely different mood, completely different attitude, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, when I'm working on something really exciting and creative like content creation, that's different because I can activate a different part of my mind. It's just exciting. But yeah, I love it. Great perspective. Okay. So a couple more fun ones. All right. Favorite junk food?
Oh man, I got a lot of favorites. That's hard. Probably like Reese's peanut butter cups. It's kind of like crack to me. So yeah, there you go.
That's good. That's good. I actually gave up sweets a long time ago, so I haven't had one for
Good for you.
years.
Yeah.
But I know what they taste like. I remember.
Yeah.
Right. I feel a specific point in my life where those Reese's cups or Tootsie Roll. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're old enough to remember the commercial. That was huge.
I do remember the commercial, I think, if I'm thinking of the same one you are, but there's something about sugar. I swear, it's like a drug. There's like a chemical reaction in your brain and you like need more of it. And I think that's like an actual documented thing. That's why they started putting sugar in like everything, because
it is
like cereal and ketchup and hamburgers and all this stuff. And it makes you want more of it, and it's effective. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, chocolate's my thing. No sugar though, just the chocolate, 100%.
Cool.
That's definitely a drug. All right. Okay. One last. So if your life was a movie, okay, what would be the theme song of the soundtrack?
That's a good question. I don't know why the Highway to the Danger Zone from Top Gun is coming to mind. I don't feel like that's actually accurate because I don't think I live in a danger zone, but I like the song. Sounds pretty cool. So yeah.
I love it. I think there are a lot of people of a certain vintage right now who are they're singing along.
Yeah.
They're singing along with that song track in mind. All right, okay. All right, so let's round it up. Okay, let's head into the 7. This is our rapid fire round, Seth. You ready?
Yes.
All right. So if you could be known for only one thing, what would it be?
Probably for being a giver. Yeah.
What's the greatest lesson in leadership you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Probably leading by example. Like if I expect anybody to do what I want them to do, like I better be doing that too. Like I can't expect them to go any further than I'm willing to go.
What personal characteristic has been most pivotal to your success?
Probably that I'm okay with long, slow, monotonous work as long as I enjoy it. And my ability to do that for long periods of time has paid huge dividends for me. Whereas a lot of other people would kind of give up a lot sooner than I would have given up. So, and I don't think it's like right or wrong. It's just a gift that I have, I guess, where I can do stuff that's slow and takes a long time to pay off.
I love it. That persistence is huge.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be at the top of the staircase, but nobody wants to climb the stairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was a quote from our last show, and I love it.
Yeah, me too.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, here's my random deck of cards. We're going to add a little randomness to this interview. Just let me know when to stop cutting.
Stop.
All right. Which event, past, present, or future, would you like to witness in person?
Probably the Will Smith slap would be the one that comes to mind.
Okay,
No,
probably
I'm
more
joking.
comfortable to witness that from the audience.
Yeah. Man, seriously, man, probably something from the days when Jesus was around, walking around.
Oh wow.
That would be pretty cool.
All right.
To witness any
I
of
love
that.
it. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, it could be yeah, the loaves and the wine, or who knows.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
A
something.
lot of great and amazing. Wow, love it. All right. So let's name one tip or trick that investors can implement in their business today.
Yeah, tip or trick. I mean, that's probably have thousands of those things. I guess one thing that's coming to mind right now, because I'm in the thick of it, is the advantage of working with partners on things, like finding somebody who's really good where you're not, and vice versa. And this is something I don't know that I'm like particularly great at this, but I've been able to succeed at it on a few occasions, maybe by luck, I don't know, but being able to find people who can do things well that I can't, and holy cow, like you can go so much further that way than just trying to do everything on your own. So I guess I don't have any like awesome tips for like how do you find these people, because I feel like I just kind of got lucky, but maybe just being willing to go there and kind of looking at life and opportunities through the lens of what if I partnered instead of trying to do this all myself? Because if you can find the right partner, it's like magic. It's really an amazing thing.
Truly spoken. Can you name a book that's helped to forge you as a leader or as an entrepreneur or investor, and tell us why?
Yeah, I think one I've read recently was Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, which is, there's lots of similar books out there, like Who Not How, that kind of thing. Just this idea of not doing everything yourself and finding ways to get a lot further with the help of other people. But felt like he just did a really good job of specifically explaining how to do this, not just like theory and concepts, but like how do you really implement it and how do you measure it so that you know you're getting the right person and they're doing a good enough job. And you just had a pretty well thought out framework for that. So that's a pretty good one.
Stuff. All right, now can you send us out with a quote to help forge our listeners as leaders and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I actually collect quotes. I have like hundreds of these things. So what's one that you actually said one earlier in this conversation that I think was from Jack Welch, where it's I think it's like face the world as it is, not as it was or as you wish it to be. So basically, like the market isn't going to do what you want. You need to figure out how to serve the market, whatever it wants, that kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of people I know, myself included, who their businesses have changed a lot over the past 12 months. I think a lot of us are in these places of having to reinvent things and rethink how stuff works, because the stuff that worked for a long time just isn't working the same way anymore. And that quote has come to mind a lot, just because I want it to just be easy. I want stuff to just work. But when it doesn't, like, nobody's going to give it to you. You got to figure out how to weave new brilliance into your business so that it serves what people want. So.
All right. Well, hey, I think that's beautiful and I love it. And hopefully people are listening out there, because I know there are a lot of people, a lot of investors that haven't been following that quote. And as the world changes and changes again, we are going to need to learn and relearn that lesson. But here at the close of the show, I just want to make sure that everybody knows how to reach out to you. So email, website, carrier pigeon, smoke signals. What's the best way to reach out to Seth Williams?
Sure. I guess 𝐅𝐸tipster.com. So RE as in real estate tipster.com. It's probably like the home base for everything, but if you're on any social media platform, you could search for RE Tipster and you'll probably find me there as well. We're pretty big on YouTube, and we've got the RE Tipster podcast as well. So, but again, if you go to 𝐅𝐸tipster.com, that's where you'll find links to all that stuff.
All right, beautiful stuff. At this point, I just want to thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge and experience with our
Yeah, you
audience.
bet. Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great to talk to you.
Likewise.
Okay.